Good morning, everyone. And now we are having today. I'm having the great pleasure of having Christine Gallaire, a master certified coach with a past career in multinational companies. And actually, Christine today will be talking to us about emotional intelligence and today how to manage pressure at work. Good morning,
Mhm.
Christine, and thank you for accepting the invitation. And actually, it's really an amazing, morning today. I knew that there was a thunderstorm yesterday in Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I hope you had a good night's sleep. Uh, so I hope the morning also after the storm is a fresh morning. It's already
Yes.
September. Yes. Okay. How are you, Christine? Yeah.
Okay. I'm feeling very good today. Thank you, Sharaf. I didn't have a lot of sleep, but I really appreciate your invitation. Okay. Yes. Today we're going to talk about how to manage pressure. Um, any any question you have on that? Maybe before, just as we're starting.
Well, today, if we're talking about pressure, I'm just very, this typical kind of entrepreneurs that I'm meeting these days, who are, post COVID, money collection issues, challenges that they're having at work with the talent. And there are war on talent, especially in startups and in tech industry. There is a huge war on talents. The demand
Mhm.
is so much higher than the supply of talents. There's always a challenge in the cash flow and expanding, and the
Yeah.
competition everywhere there is, and it comes up also with the family and its dues. So I was just talking a couple of days ago with Mr. Ahmed Badr about management consulting, and he just mentioned this metaphor and that they're running around like headless chicken,
Yeah.
and and I'm not sure, if this is how to support them and how to support ourselves and how to support myself also, because I'm
Mhm.
maybe at some points of time manage being a coach and managing my business at the same time and managing a family and kids from an ex-wife. It's really at some points
Yeah.
stressful beyond, and what are the best practices and how does it, just I'll give you the floor. I talk too much, so
No,
I'm nagging
that's
here,
okay. That's okay. Maybe why don't we start with what does create all the pressures? What are the factors? Okay, there's a lot of new stressors at the moment, and they have emerged during the past months. Think about the impact of the COVID, lockdowns, economic turbulences, threats for our lives. Having to cope as well with new working conditions, working from home, not having necessarily the space to do that, having to take care of the kids and the kids' education at the same time, um, high uncertainties as well. But not only. What I hear as well coming from my clients is that in reality there are also many more calls, video conferences, and people end up by having longer working hours. And on top of that, sometimes we have also some critical weather events, in some part of the world. So all of that is adding stress, okay, because we have to adapt and continuously adapt to those new conditions.
Okay, wow, that's amazing. How it is happening, and how these pressures are actually coming in is really something that is somehow, is I believe it's global. It's a pandemic,
Yeah,
somehow stress
yeah,
these
yeah.
days. We can say that. Yeah, and actually, that's of course that if it is happening, we have, some sort of a dynamic that happens inside us. Can we talk more about it? Maybe this may help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Let me tell you about the way our brains work. Okay, under stress. So under stress, our brain looks for very quick solutions. Okay, I mean solutions that have worked in the past, even if not really fitting fully to the current situation. So it means that our brain shuts down literally our empathy and our creativity. Okay, so we negotiate less, we communicate less, okay, and we simply get focused on urgencies and responding to immediate threats. What is really fascinating here, you know, Sharaf, is that there's a little part of our brain which really comments all our instinctive reactions. Okay, and I'd like to share with you now that video. That's going to last about 2 minutes, but it tells us about how our amygdala is working. Okay, and the impact of our amygdala on the way we react.
Okay. Okay. Just one moment.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
So,
just one moment. So I'll
that's
just.
wonderful. Now we sit. So this is the amygdala, as you can see. So it's very small, actually. So when we are blowing up, usually it's because of our amygdala.
Okay.
Okay.
So
You
it is
see
this.
that small, yeah, this small tiny sac of neurons. Okay.
I guess it is the nearest to the spinal cord, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it gets the signals from all the bodily.
Yeah, the body language, no facial expressions. Okay.
Mm,
It creates a body language at the same time, so it shows up very, and you know, it can end up by just look very nervous. Okay, and sometimes, well, do we have three very basic kind of reactions, like do we want to fight back? Do we want to stand firm and stand in the fear? Okay, or do we want to escape at the same time?
mm,
And so, what we can do actually is that we can tame the amygdala in the sense that we can try to stop those kind of reactions in order to be able to really change a pattern, okay, and so act more intentionally, you know.
yeah.
So it's a kind of bypassing, you know. It's like what is written here is bypassing the automatic kind of reaction of our amygdala.
Wow.
Wow. So, you know, yeah, we can
Wow.
tame the amygdala. So I guess we can just stop the video now, you know.
Mm,
And what we can say is that how to then prevent some, let's say, excessive kind of reactions.
okay.
You know, because the amygdala pushes us to have three basic reactions, okay, that are escaping, freezing, attacking. But you know, that was working very well when we were in the jungle, okay, some years and years and years ago. But right now, okay, we need to have more elaborated kind of reactions. You know, we need to negotiate, we need to talk with people, we need to communicate. So there are many things that in our activities that are requesting a different kind of behavior. And so the first thing, and I guess that we're talking now about how to navigate our emotions. And really, the first thing that we can do regarding navigating our emotions is really first paying attention to the signals. You know, and I guess to navigate our emotions and pay attention to the signals, there are physical signals, you know, such as a big headache, or the heartbeats, or the blood pressure, or the way we breathe, or stop
Mm,
breathing almost, okay, or a kind of stomach pain. Some of the people have pain with their back, okay. Some people do not sleep, so insomnia. But there are also kind of reactions that we can notice in ourselves, such as nervousness, you know, tendency to blow up. Okay, so those signals tells us that our level of stress is going up. Okay, and that's kind of an alert for us. Okay, to find some coping strategies. We call it in emotional intelligence navigating emotions. So what it means is to transform emotions into, I would say, into kind of information, data, energy, okay, to move on. And
Okay.
mm,
So can you please elaborate on this, how to navigate emotions and, yeah, that's,
sure,
yeah, because this is, I believe that there's where the breakthrough happens, when I
yeah,
realize that, that I do move my leg, this kind of,
yeah, yeah, ding, ding, ding,
yeah,
ding, this way.
yes. And I realize that this is coming out of maybe anticipation, anxiety. I just want the other person to finish fast. I want to just fast forward events, and how
Yeah,
this fast forwarding is affecting me in my life. It really
hmm
made a breakthrough in my understanding on what this leg movement is. But it happened when I was 35 or 36 years. So
okay, sure.
I've been for 35 years. I've been had this rush every time, and was fast forwarding, and I was not aware of it, and I didn't know
hmm
how it was impacting my life.
You know,
So now it's an alarming signal that I'm
yes,
just in a rush. I'm anxious. I want to just move things forward. I just so I realized it. I start acknowledging the signal.
yeah.
So actually, this is very simple terms of how I dealt with it. But
hmm
how can we teach people and leaders, and how people can become self-aware about navigating emotions?
Okay, okay. So
Yeah.
that's something I will be really happy to answer to. I guess that we might have a picture to show, okay, that
Mm.
illustrates that quite well,
Okay,
if
just
you
a
wish.
moment. Yes,
Okay.
please. Okay.
And here, what we are talking about is the first thing is starting by naming emotions. Okay.
Mm.
When you start by naming your emotions, what you're doing is that if you're saying, well, I'm anxious about the future. I'm feeling worried about not being able to do all the stuff that I have on my table at the moment. I feel excited. I feel afraid. When you start doing this, the first thing that you're doing is relaxing a bit because you're acknowledging the way you are. Okay. And that's the first step to identify what is affecting you. Another thing is we talked about the role of um, the amygdala in creating some of our reactions. We said as well that before we tend to go into autopilot. Our brains, okay, creates kind of shortcuts, So if I face a situation A and I've got, let's say, I did it in a quite of a good way. Okay, next time that something will look like situation A, my brain will propose immediately the solutions of the first time, even if the situation is quite different. Okay, so because it does not readjust very quickly. So what we need is to recognize our autopilot and recognize what the autopilot makes us doing. Like, do you tend to close your door to others? Or do you go into micromanaging? Or do you become harsh when people are asking you something on top of what you had to do? Or do you become frenetic at, multitasking? So all of those are kind of, let's say, reactions that we might have that might not be our normal, regular reactions, but those are signals. Okay, this is autopilot. So as said in the video, we need to tame the amygdala, so re-educate it. Okay. Another thing is also use a kind of optimistic approach, by asking ourselves, okay, but what are the options? Okay, any other possibility? Do I really need to do this way? Okay, is that the only strategy I can have, or the only tactic that I can have? And so decide to experiment something new, because with the old stuff, usually we get the old results. Okay, if you want to get a new input, or if you want to face a new situation, probably we need to change a bit our own approach. Another thing is there's one thing which is fantastic, really, regarding stress is the power of connecting with people. When you do connect with people, when you start talking about the issue, first you clarify in your mind, but also people are happy to offer suggestions, offer eventually some So psychological support, and so immediately you find yourself feeling better. Okay, so you listen to other perspectives. Okay, and at the end you feel better, and eventually you feel like, okay, I feel that I can face the situation, so it helps.
Wow. So these are actually ways to close the loop, or maybe
Mhm.
what they call it, just shut down the loop. What else can we have here also? So
What
besides
else?
people, besides recognizing the autopilot, recognizing the body signal, being optimistic
All
about
right.
the options. What
Okay,
what else can we have here? Yeah.
well, there are the things we can do actually, and those things are this is what we call traditionally coping strategies. The coping strategies can be very different from you. You might uh, think about the things that help you to relax. Okay, what are those things?
Mm. Okay,
What?
I'm actually, for me,
Mhm.
I when I'm yani, the ways that I feel stressed, that and I feel just that there is something that's not working well, is the
Yeah.
time when I just tend to shut down,
Mhm.
not likely to have a good communication with anyone.
Yeah.
I'm everywhere, and mentally I'm distracted in a way that's not
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
healthy, not really letting me able to finish things off.
Yeah.
And sometimes it comes in with what they call it, constipation. This is something
Hmm.
that's
Okay.
a real physical signal that shows to
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
that I'm really
Mhm.
stressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this, I have this colon, this distractions that happen when I'm stressed or nervous or this stuff.
And if
So
you
these are, yeah. Mm.
Yeah, and those are, let's say, the signals you have. If you think about now uh, the things or the activities that tend to help you to relax, what are those?
Well, it's one of them is actually connecting with sunrise. In the morning, I really
Yeah.
connect. This is something that really gives me a lot of hope.
Hmm.
Sometimes breaking the cycle with watching a good movie or something like this.
Hmm.
Having a good walk and a good weather. Um,
Okay.
Sometimes it's intimacy and sex. It's really
Hmm.
good. To feel good. Yeah, really. So,
Yeah.
there is also actually connecting with people that I didn't see
Mhm.
from a long time, and just having a good talk. Just connect with old pals and old friends. This is something
Yeah.
that really makes me, and having some hugs. This from my kids,
Yeah.
from my, yeah, from my family,
Yeah.
from
It
my,
helps also so
yeah,
much.
yeah.
And and you see, you have plenty of coping strategies. Usually, what happens is that let's say we can take care of our bodies. Okay, it means it starts from what we eat. Okay, so the kind of food. Okay, is that sane or is that junk? Sometimes when we are under pressure, what do is that we take some chocolate bars, we eat in a kind of frenetic way stuff, potatoes and stuff like this, and at the end we feel heavy and we don't feel very good, and while the energy level that we had was not already very high, okay, it becomes even lower. Okay, so that's one of the things. Another thing is to sleep and pay attention to the quality of our sleep, but as well the number of hours that we spend sleeping. Another thing is practicing sport, you know um, but it's not the only things, so for some people, so this is quite important. For some others, it's more the way they take care about their soul. I mean, having some creative activities like singing, dancing, reading, painting, playing an instrument, or that could be as well mindfulness, or that could be meditation. For some others, you were talking about, looking at the sun in the morning. Okay, and that could be a great moment of meditation. Some other do meditation while walking, for instance, or some others simply tend to focus on the way they breathe to get recentered. So, I guess that there's not one recipe for all. Okay, those are the things that we experiment, and if again we are we pay attention to the signals and to what make us feel good. Okay, this is something we can replicate.
Mhm. That's really very actually that's these are very this is a big expensive ways, and they're actually handy for mostly everyone.
Yeah.
I believe that when this pandemic came, the COVID came, and actually
Mm.
there was a lockdown. Many of these um, actually coping strategies were actually in a way stopped and banned. Some people
Mm.
actually couldn't
Yeah.
see the sun because actually the
Mm.
structure of their houses and the lockdown, they were forced to stay at home in
Yeah.
places that don't see the sun, or that they couldn't actually walk outside the home because this was total lockdown. And in some cases sports, also sports centers, most of
Mm.
lots of people like to play sports in the open air or in clubs on this stuff,
Yeah.
or in
Yeah.
on gyms. And it was, so I believe the last year and a half or 2 year, the last since
Mm.
this pandemic started, many of these coping strategies were so limited.
Yeah.
You had this
Exactly.
kind of a spectrum that was really good,
Mm. Yeah.
and then now this on the shelf, on the plate, there are less options for people. So,
Hmm.
how did you work with clients at this time? Actually, we see around the world now
Yeah.
the depression, the mental illness is really soaring up after
Yeah.
the
That's
post-pandemic
right.
effects,
Mm.
and
Mm.
now mental health professionals are working with that. So, as coaches, I believe that I had many sessions about this, about
Mhm.
the coping with stress and anxiety, and I referred many to therapists. I
Yeah.
couldn't actually handle, and with coaching alone, it wasn't really easy to handle,
Mhm.
and it was really, and they were actually diagnosed afterwards, diagnosed by depression and different level of
Okay.
disorders and this stuff. So, in a way, how can we emotional intelligence help people with limited options? What can be a good
Okay.
options within lockdowns, and within especially that it became a habit now.
Okay, so I guess I completely agree with you. I've observed exactly the same things. Okay, and what I can say is that emotional intelligence can help us to use optimism. And here, what I mean is when we're using optimism, is it's just saying, okay, there might be some new possibilities that we do not see at the moment, but believe that they do exist. With my clients, what I did is that we worked on finding in the daily life, being closed inside a house, what to do. Okay. And what could be things to focus on, to relax. For instance, for most of us, working outside home is meant in the past not seeing so much the children. Okay, so spending more time with the children, playing with the children, having more quality time with them, or with the partner helps a lot. So that is one of the things. If you think about alternative kind of activities, like most of the time cooking is quite limited during the working week because you're running, So during the pandemic and the lockdown, what people could also do is cook. Be more creative about cooking because that was an activity they could do inside. Okay. Another thing is connect with sports and with practitioners of sports using Skype or any kind of other video conferencing devices. And some other people did that. So, that sometimes the point is not to focus on what you cannot get any longer, but really watch carefully around you about what you have and that you're not fully, let's say, exploiting at the moment.
Wow, you remind me while you were saying this, the metaphor of those who actually get in lockdown of prison or something. They get imprisoned for something, for a crime
Yeah,
they did do or didn't do,
yeah,
and make
yeah.
the use of the years they spent inside the prison to get themselves out as a better person, especially when they're in a solo or an individual lockdown. I actually happen to know many people, that were actually, for political affiliations or whatever, crimes that they didn't do. And actually, when they went in the prison days, they came out much, much better than and much powerful and much wiser and much, because actually they worked on themselves despite they didn't see sunlight. They didn't have even the choice of the food that they can eat. They didn't have actually sports equipment to work out. However,
mm,
they just managed with what they have, and they, sometimes got better certificates inside the
yeah,
prison. They got, many. They got muscular. They got, more.
yeah,
What they fit and more mentally fit and wise. Because they really focused on what they have instead of what they
yeah,
can do.
yeah,
So that's amazing, really.
yeah,
Christine, I really love that. So if we want to really look at, the how can we work with anger? That's people at some stages. Yesterday, last weekend I was actually with my dad. He's 83 years old.
mhm,
May God bless him and his, and we were in a trip going to a city that's 4 hours of drive and 4 hours back. And I
mhm,
told him that I don't like actually driving for 8 hours a day. It makes me
yeah,
sleepy. he
mm,
he answered me that it makes him nervous. This
that's funny.
you know how
Mm,
he actually looks at when he gets tired, he gets nervous. You recall
mhm.
this famous cartoons of Donald Duck when he was actually driving and shouting at his
The
nephews,
kids behind, yeah,
the kids behind. At some stages of our trips with my dad,
yeah,
we saw this, as kids,
mhm,
experience this this anger, that comes out when you're
yeah.
not aware of the sources of stress. And he explained, this very very short answer from my dad explained to me the scene that we always have seen
Mm.
before.
Yeah,
And
you're right.
the Donald
Mm. Talking
So
about your question, okay, talking
yeah.
about your question, how to, well, what to do with anger. I guess that the very first thing is probably before getting angry, okay, maximize all the opportunities you have to feel happy, to do something good for yourself. So maximize the opportunities. You were talking about people being in jail, okay, and having little opportunities. Well, they had an opportunity that was eventually, studying. They took it. Okay. You have the opportunity to connect with people worldwide thanks to video conferencing. Take it. Okay. Um, do not feel bad about what you had, but try to focus on the present and take the advantage of what you get at the moment. And the other thing is when we talk about anger and we're already angry, okay, let's think about that. We usually what we tend to do is stop listening, okay, and we tend to be defensive. So how not to be defensive? Okay, not to be defensive meaning that you keep on not only hearing but listening to the person. Okay, it means that if you don't want to be, when we are on the defensive side, it's usually because the message that comes across to us is you're not okay, I'm not okay. Okay, so instead of thinking about that, think a minute about all the things you did well, all your successes, all what you achieved. Take some minutes as well to breathe, okay, and calm down the pressure, okay. Try to empty your head from negativity and fill it with positive sensations. You go to do some activities with your kids and you had a very good time. Wonderful. Think about that. You had that wonderful image of the sun rising up. Okay. Call it back, okay, in those moments, because those are going to be resources that will help you. Another thing is show empathy. Showing empathy means accept that, well, someone else can have a different point of view, and if they look like let's say confronting with you, it's probably because they have some needs, they have a certain context, they have some emotions that are at play. So let's try to understand, okay, what's going on for them, because maybe like this you'll be able to work on a, let's say, mutual kind of solution. Another point is explore. ask questions. Us as coaches, we use so much questioning and powerful questioning. So because when we ask questions, we understand again better the point of view. We understand better the situation, and that helps to build a common solution, or to simply avoid being in contradiction.
Wow. So that's really resourceful. Yani, thank you, Christine, for this. That's so.
Right.
If we wanna, summarize today's, learnings, the top
Mhm.
learnings for today, what would you say about managing pressure and it was a real journey, and
Okay,
stress. Yeah. So
so
what?
what would I say? I would say first pay attention to the signals. Okay, your physical signals, but as well mental signals. Okay. The other thing is think about instead of looking at what you lost, think about what are the options that you have. Okay, what are the pros and cons of the reactions that you're having? Be aware that you can tame your amygdala. Okay, so have some think about the coping strategies. All those very small things that have worked so far. And I would say I would add one thing, that we didn't talk about is enjoy and celebrate all the small steps, all the small successes that you're making, because this will create a lot of positive energy in you, and that's going to be a kind, of resources that you'll be able to use if the going gets worse. Okay, so as we want the going to get better, okay, so let's capitalize, on all those small moments. I want
Yeah.
to thank you very much, Sharaf. That has
Yeah.
been a very good talk and very good exchange. I hope that people who are listening to us as well found some, let's say, tips and solutions.
Yeah, thank you, really, Christine. And this is our second episode, and I believe that it was really rich in its content and its wisdom that you shared. And thank you for your generosity. Would you like to talk more about your services? About coaching and emotional intelligence. And how people can work with you on that. Yeah.
Well, we the different ways. I mean, we can work on it individually, so people can simply contact me. As you can see here, you have all my contact details, and contact me. We can have a talk to explain you what they'd like to work on, and we see how to create a coaching journey for them. That can be as well for a team, so that can be as well for working with a team that has a need to work on emotional intelligence, or on working on managing pressure among them and how they relate to stress. So very, very, that would be with really pleasure that we'll talk about what would be the situation and how to connect and present some solutions.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Christine. It was really amazing and gracious talking to you today.
Thank
And
you.
actually, yani, I would love actually to have this, opportunity also to talk about, the our offering for the team and culture transformation coaching program that will start on 16th of October
Sure.
with Innovation Creed.
Sure.
Just if
Great.
somebody is really interested to join, is actually on 16th of October and the 21st, and it's provided by Innovation Creed and Authentic Coaching Academy. So thank you, Christine, and thank you everyone watching us. So we will be for the next episode. We are going live next month, and we
Mhm.
will be communicating the next episode. And also, I'm hosted. I'm very glad that I'm hosted also at your side for the
Yes.
conflict
Yes.
resolution. Yeah, within two
Yes.
weeks we'll
Yes.
have the next
Yeah.
episode for that. Yeah.
Yeah, on the
So
28th. So
yeah.
I'll be really that's going to be, something very nice to do, talking about how to roles, okay, get at play into conflict management. And, conflict has a big impact on how we manage pressure. So those topics are they're quite, let's say, connected.
Very true. Yeah. Thank you, Christine,
Thank you.
and thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone, and have an excellent day everywhere. Okay. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Bye bye
Bye
now.
bye.
Thank you to
Bye bye.
all.
Yeah.